WXing Day, New Year's, Festivus, whatever you're celebrating this week. Dennis Koulatsos joins us now from Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Usually he joins me on a Monday morning after another Raven win or loss. Lately it's been a lot of wins. This week we've let the Christmas and Christmas Eve and all the cookies soak in, Dennis Koulatsos. How unlikely a 4-5 football team during bye week and Halloween that we're sitting here talking about not just winning the division, but there is potential to earn a bye, which is outrageous, right?
Well, Nestor, we've seen this movie before. We saw it back in 2000 when the team was 4-5 and switched from Tony Banks to Trent Dilfer, made a long run, resulting in a Super Bowl victory. So we can certainly dream. It'd be a great story having a rookie quarterback pick this team, a rookie quarterback that people have said is really a wide receiver or running back, and just change the entire offense midseason. I mean, who does this, Nestor, and goes on this type of a run that this team has gone to? You just couldn't write a better holiday Christmas story than this one, could you?
Well, and the fear that's out there for teams that have to play the Ravens, and we'll get to the playoffs. I don't want to, put on the pants before I put on the necessaries here, right? But Cleveland's in the way, and this is a better Cleveland team than maybe we believed it was when I was making fun of them in front of the Hard Knocks billboard in Cleveland back in the summer,
Yeah, they're a much better team now. Greg Williams, of course, he's a great defensive mind, and Freddie Kitchens has done such a great job with the offense, and now they're talking about him being a candidate for a head coaching position that maybe 6 to 10 opened up this year. Who knows? But they're playing some good football. I saw them when they beat the Bengals. The Bengals looked like they had it packed in for the season, so it really wasn't a good comparison to watch. They were at home, and there really wasn't much of a game. I think it was about 23-0 heading into the fourth quarter. Didn't learn much from watching that, but look, they're going up against the number one defense in the NFL. The Ravens are at home, and you've got to like our chances. I don't see Baker Mayfield standing in the way of this team making the playoffs. This thing is very personal also for Lamar Jackson and Baker. Baker Mayfield thought he should have won the 2016 Heisman Trophy. He didn't do it. He lost it to Lamar. He's got a chip. Lamar's got a chip. Baker stared down Hugh Jackson, which I thought was Bush League, and I think we have not only the better quarterback, but definitely the better character guy. I'm glad Lamar is our quarterback much more so than Baker Mayfield.
I had a conversation the day Baker Mayfield did the crotch chop nonsense last year. I'm trying to think of, I was in a weird press box somewhere. Where did we play on the road a year and a half ago? I don't know. But I was somewhere, and I saw some Ravens officials see that, literally watch that on the television, and I got a little, visceral reaction out of whether they would want that kind of guy to be their quarterback. And he's not, and Lamar Jackson is. And this is the most unlikely of scenarios in a lot of ways. When we talk about the bye thing with the Ravens, it really does speak to me to how vulnerable the Patriots, the Chargers, the Chiefs, certainly the Steelers, who are now looking over our shoulders all of a sudden, right? At what they want. I would say Houston may, to me, to be the strongest team right now, right? But that being said, all of these teams look a little vulnerable, and I guess that's when you start to get the sugar plums dancing of, all right, take care of business against Cleveland, just win. Then you get a home game. It's probably going to be San Diego. Might be Kansas City. I don't know. I cannot say, other than the Bengals, maybe Arizona. I don't know any other team that's absolutely packed it in. And Oakland hasn't packed it in yet. And Denver, to me, looks like they've packed it in. So I'm not ready to just say Kansas City's going to roll the ball out and beat Oakland. And I know Luke poo-pooed that earlier in the week. But I would say all of these games have some danger about them. Baltimore and Cleveland being the most dangerous game, which is why Jim Nantz is here, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm sure you feel the same way that I feel, the way the entire Ravens fan base feels. Look, we got to get in. We got to beat the Browns and get in. I don't want to worry about tiebreakers and back into the playoffs. Got to handle the business at hand, which is beating the Browns. And once they beat the Browns, they can storm into the playoffs. And this notion that nobody wants to play the Ravens, I really don't want to hear that. I think teams are looking forward to playing the Ravens. I think Phillip Rivers is looking forward to playing the Ravens again. But I do think the Ravens are going to be an awfully tough out once they get in. But they've got to get in.
Didn't go so well for Phillip Rivers and the Chargers out in Carson on Saturday night. Dan, I know it feels like it's been a little while ago, and you and I did not recap the game going through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and I figured, we get around to it in the middle of the week, but it feels like a long time away, and I know for everyone sitting at home late into the night on Saturday night, waiting for a big play, waiting for Phillip Rivers probably to make a big play, right, because he hadn't really done that, and it turns out that, it's Peanut and Tavon Young making a big play, and together at the podium, upwards of midnight out there in Southern California. It was a very unique night, a very memorable experience, and as you and I would go back to the history of Ravens football, I don't remember very many Christmas weekend, big game, road, somewhere else, everybody gathered around the television, and the Ravens winning that kind of a football game. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, it's been a very long time. What's not lost upon me, Nestor, is that the Ravens hadn't had playmakers for a long time now, but if you look on the defensive side of the ball, we can see that Marlon Humphrey is a budding superstar. I think he's allowing an average of 4 yards per catch. He's becoming a shutdown corner right before our eyes. He definitely had the athletic ability coming out of college, a little bit some question marks about how could he defend the deep ball, but he has really worked very, very hard, and he's developed himself into a shutdown corner. On the flip side of the ball, Lamar Jackson is the playmaker. That's the guy that all these other teams are planning for. And you know what? Anthony Lynn said, the coach of the Chargers, they knew it was coming. It was very simple. Nothing new. They just couldn't stop it, Nestor. That's the most amazing thing. They know what's coming at it. It's maybe a half a dozen plays. And they dress them up. Marty and Greg dress them up differently. But as Ray Lewis said, it's still football. No matter how you scheme it up, you still come down to blocking and tackling. And right now the Ravens are excelling on both sides of the ball.
Here is the amazing stat of the week, Dennis, and it was not lost on me. And I don't talk a lot of football with my wife, but I actually brought this up with my wife. Terrell Suggs, start number 229, surpassing Ray Lewis. You just get to the point with Ray where, look, it's not walk on water and touchdown Jesus or anything weird, but it did feel like he was here forever and that no one would ever, kind of like Cal Ripken, right? Like, no one's ever going to do that, right? And lo and behold, here we are, and we're like, how long has it been? Oh my God, it's been 6 full seasons. 6 times 16 games. You start to add that up, right? And you say, here's Terrell Suggs, who will be putting a sweater on more and longer than anyone in Ravens history. That's kind of an incredible thing when you think about it.
It really is, and I think Suggs, like Ray, he really needs a second Super Bowl to really cement his legacy. Ray's legacy was already cemented. The question was he 1A or 1B in terms of middle linebackers? And I think that second Super Bowl went a long way to cementing his legacy as the best linebacker, inside linebacker in the game. Terrell Suggs, he's on his cusp of a Hall of Fame career. I think he gets in without a second Super Bowl ring, but again, like Ray, what a great way to end a great career, by finishing up with a second Super Bowl ring. This team rode Ray Lewis's coattails to the 2012 Super Bowl. Maybe they can do the same thing in 2018.
Dennis Koulatsos will be here on Thursday. He is the SSV on WNST. That's the Sunday Sports Voice, now heard from 3 until 5 on Thursday and rebroadcast on Sunday morning, getting you ready for the late afternoon game. Dennis, I've done the math, and I know you've probably eaten more than this. I've eaten $1,500 worth of tickets this year. I've done the math on it, and yeah. I'm wondering whether this week the stadium's going to, in any way, feel like the stadium that we knew for the better part of 15 years, maybe longer than 15 years, where everybody was in every seat every week all the time, other than a little blip during the Kyle Bowler era, when they were playing out the string on a 12-degree night against Green Bay. But this trend over the last 2 years, right? It's black-white. It's military, not military. It's Neil, not Neil. It's America versus not. It's the offense. It's the defense. I don't like Harbaugh. I'm mad Ray's not there anymore. Hey, they haven't made the play. Whatever the excuses are, right? We've heard all of that. I don't know where the excuse could be at this point if you're not coming to the football game on Sunday and you have tickets, but I've witnessed this now over the better part of 15 home games, right, where people just aren't coming to the games. I don't know what brings them back, but if a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns doesn't, I don't know where the hope is for what will reinvigorate the fan base here, Dennis.
Well, Nestor, if this doesn't do it, I don't know what else will. I was very disgruntled last year. You knew it, and I was very vocal about it, and I think a lot of people were. But This year, you know what brought me back, and that was the Kansas City game. It was the first time in a long time, particularly with the team being away, I was able to stand up, scream at my TV set, third down, fourth down. I was fully invested. I really cared. And same thing with the game against San Diego. Called out the fans to show up against the Tampa Bay game. Of course, nobody listened because the stadium was still half empty, right? But
well, this year you would blame it on the weather, right? I mean, up until the last game. The last game was a little different, but the weather was horrific. And that is the ultimate insult, right? You're a fair weather fan. It speaks for itself.
But I'm so excited for this game. My brother called me. My nephew called me. I've got 6 of us going to the game. All 10 of my tickets are done. Wait until you see a picture of the 6 of us, Nestor, on social media. You know what? People are better off messing with the pack of hungry lions than the 6 of us. It's going to be quite a sight.
Is it old school? I mean, are you starting to work on the menu and icing down the refreshments and all that?
Let me tell you something. This is going to be a scary bunch of guys. But we're fired up, and I hope everybody else is feeling the same way. We need to bring the passion back to the stadium, and the guys from the fence that supported the team will not. You know what? Sell your tickets. Give them up. Get rid of your PSLs. Give it to somebody else who's going to enjoy coming to the game. Maybe somebody younger. Maybe somebody whose lights hasn't started to dim because of life or circumstance or whatever. But at some point, you got to get over things, and you got to support your home team. And I think we've reached that point right here, right now.
The Man Cave is back. The Purple Festival's Festivus lights are hung by the stockings with care. Dennis Koulatsos is here. He's at Coons Ford at Security Boulevard. He will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, also driving you home, or actually to the game on Sunday in the morning. Tell them what's going on out at Coons Ford, because I know you got turn of the year. You still got 18s laying around, maybe? A few?
We got more 18s laying around than I need, Nestor, which means I've got it marked down to move. Big incentives on them, still 0% for 72 months, given high dollar on trades. Business has never been better at Coons Ford of Baltimore. I need everybody to come in here right now and take advantage of the huge savings on the leftover 2018 models.
All right, I want you to take advantage here before Black Monday to discuss the weirdness around John Harbaugh's employment status. Dennis, you sponsored a text service, right? And I guess I could go back through my phone and get exactly, when the text service thing is ready to rock. But I was sitting having ceviche in downtown San Diego, and it felt like sort of late in the day on a holiday Friday, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it would have been 4 p.m. your time. It was 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is this? You tell me. You do a good job of playing Steve Bisciotti around here. Play the role of Steve Bisciotti, then play the role of John Harbaugh and his wife, then play the role of John Harbaugh's agent, right? Because we have to get in all the seats here, and it has been a very tumultuous, I would think, behind-the-scenes relationship time in the castle when you're 4 and 5 and the reports start leaking of your demise and reporters are writing things and people are saying things. This is going to be an interesting couple of weeks for John Harbaugh, for the Ravens, for all of the other Black Monday coaches, because, we know Green Bay's coming on Monday, right? There's a couple of jobs we know about, but next week is always a wild, wild game of hot potato, right?
Okay, well, here's the deal. I thought it was a wonderful, the timing of the announcement was wonderful for a number of reasons. Number one, it put to bed whether John Harbaugh is coming back for 2019 or not. That was good for the organization.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
really?
Well, they put it out there. That's what they said, right?
Well, they put it out that Brian Billick wasn't going anywhere either. So, I mean, the last time they fired a coach, they gave a December vote of confidence, right? Like, literally.
All right. Well,
and that season wasn't going anywhere, right?
Right, but let's just focus on the moment, which was, what was at stake? What was at stake was the game against the Chargers 24 hours later, correct? So they put this out there. Harbaugh's coming back. What that told the veteran players, Nestor, was that you guys better give it your all. You guys are playing for your jobs. John Harbaugh is not. His job is safe. Your job isn't. This team looked lethargic against Tampa Bay. I don't know if some players went out the night before. They were all in town. I don't know if some missed curfew, but to me, that was a message to the veterans. Listen, John's going to be here next year. You're still auditioning, so you better get it together. And I think that was a big factor in how focused this team was when they came out against the Chargers. I could be wrong, but I think that's what that message would now start to serve. Now, we've got Peter King and other people saying, not so fast. John's going to play out his contract and see what's available. John Harbaugh is a very smart man, and so is the Ravens organization, right? So I put up a blog today on WNST and talked about exactly that subject. We'll see what happens going forward. I think John wants to be here. I think Steve wants him to be here, but I think it's going to come down to how much power does John want? How much power in regard to personnel does John require? I think that may be a sticking point, particularly with Eric DeCosta involved. But they'll figure it out. If they're not going to allow him to play on a lame duck contract for 1 year. He's not going to be the coach just for 2019.
So what are they going to have to give him? $50 million? I mean, that's probably the going rate, right?
It's money. I think it's money and power. So if they can't come, they'll come to terms with money. But I don't know about the power part of it. So what'll happen is,
what's the power? He hires all of his coaches. That's the way it's always been. That is his power, right? I mean, you're talking about personnel power?
Personnel, correct, because he's had more power since the 2012 Super Bowl, so I don't know how much more power he would want. I think that's the only thing that would keep him from staying or even for the next 4 or 5 years. So what'll happen is if they can't come to an agreement, then they'll leak it out. The front office will leak it out. If they can't come to an agreement, they'll start shopping him around out there, and they will trade him to a team that will give them the best.
So that he isn't really coaching the 2019 team. So whatever that thing that says he's definitely going to be the coach next year, Dennis, you wouldn't bet me the dealership right now that he'll be the coach of the team, and you know why? Because that's what that text was all about on Friday night. That text was all about, hey, Green Bay's going to be open. Cleveland might be open with a franchise quarterback. Miami's going to be open because they're going to fire him, right? Denver's going to be open. I go work with John Elway out there, get a high pick, and go find the quarterback and build from scratch because I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to stay healthy the next 5 years. Hey, someone else is going to give me a 6th year at $10 million a year because they really believe in me, and the Ravens are saying things like, well, we're dangling with 1 year left next year, and we'll give you 3 years, John, at $8 million a year or $9 million a year when your brother's getting 12 from whomever he's going to get it next week. So there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of movement going on, and with 1 year left on your deal, I don't think John wants to miss out on a $50 million extension, which is where the market is. And I think you saw this with Barry Trotz. And I know you're a little far removed from baseball, but baseball has stopped paying not only players, right? They've stopped paying the managers too. So, and I know the NFL coaches or the NFL owners would love to drive salary down. No one was more pissed about the Gruden thing than the other 31 owners in the league saying, $10 million a year, $100 million, really, Mark? You imbecile, really? That's what you're going to do to us now? Because that's the way it works in the sport. And John's going to have an opportunity at the end of all of this to take a job, maybe not take a job. I think we learned a lot with Josh McDaniels last year as far as what is a commitment, and when we're and with Barry Trotz as well, Dennis, that it's not a fait accompli in any case that the Ravens are really going to give him a 5-year, $50 million or whatever that number is going to look like, or whether the Packers really, really, really covet him and are willing to give Steve Bisciotti a 1 and a 3. You know, right? I mean, I think it could go in any direction, and I think all bets are off. And I'm not sure they're going to win on Sunday either, right? So what happens if things go bad? There's a lot moving here, and they could also win the Super Bowl 5 weeks from now, right? And if they win the Super Bowl 5 weeks from now, then Steve has to go to John and say, John, here's 6 years and $58 million or whatever that number is, right? And that would be the Flacco part of this. And I know I've taken you down a messy road here, but these are all possibilities, right?
They really are. Pete Carroll just signed an extension, 3 more years at $11 million a year apiece. I think he sets a new bar for head coaches in the NFL. Look, I do think Bill Belichick is at $12 million, but he also is wearing 2 hats in the form of head coach and general manager. But Pete Carroll, $11 million for 3 more years, so that's $33 million with 3. So I think John's going to be north of that. As you mentioned, it's messy, and I don't think it's dependent upon them winning against the Browns. I think they have cap space for next year. They're going to make some moves. I think it's going to be how much of an appetite does John have to stay as the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens? How much more power will he want? And at the end of the day, how much more power is Steve Bisciotti and Eric DeCosta willing to give him? And the final thing is at what cost? Because if Pete Carroll is worth $11 million a year, what's John Harbaugh worth not just to the Ravens?
What would the Green Bay Packers give John Harbaugh right now? What would they give him If he
I
hit the skids and they threw him out, as was rumored 6 weeks ago, what would the deal look like for John? And to your point, it's at least 5 years and $50 million, right? At least.
Yeah, I would say that if we can measure to what Pete Carroll received, I don't see why he wouldn't. But I would think 5 for 55 would be the number at this point. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, that has to be Steve Bisciotti's number, or else Steve Bisciotti might say, you know what? I'm going to go hire the next young new thing for $4 million a year. John, I love you. Good luck to you. You made me a better man. I made you a better man. You won me a championship. Your family, your thoughts are about Green Bay and the Midwest, or if that's what John's thinking. I don't know. Nobody knows what John. By the way, nobody knows what John's thinking, right? So that's why this is all speculation.
Yeah, he's a smart guy, but again, I think that text that went out also told the rest of the NFL, all the teams that are going to be in the market for head coach, that John is still, just a reminder that John still has one more year left on his contract. This is not his last year. He still has one more at $8 million committed to the Baltimore Ravens, and we'll see what happens going forward. But don't think that once this season ends, whether it's this Sunday or, in the playoffs, that John Harbaugh is a free agent. He is not. He's still contractually obligated to the Baltimore Ravens. And there'll have to be compensation at this point to the Ravens by all the suitors out there.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He is Coons Forward on Security Boulevard, as well as sponsoring our WNST Tech Service and the SSV on WNST. You can hear him from 3 until 5 on Thursday and again on Sunday morning. I think I've gone through everything here. Number one, defense, right? And Lamar Jackson and playing to get in against the Cleveland Browns. Who could ask for more to start 2019, Dan?
No one else. Great stuff, Nestor. Appreciate the time.
Complimentary football and complimentary conversations. Dennis Koulatsos, find him on Thursday and find him at the SSV on WNST out on Twitter. You can find me anytime, anywhere on Facebook and Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel, and Nasty at WNST.net finds me from LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and all over the interwebs. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.